I am so excited to welcome our guest today. She is a client and a friend of ours. She's a photographer who is known for creating heirloom portraits. And if you haven't heard of this, it has been a tradition for Southern children for generations. Chances are you have one in your home or your parents do. Allie Roepe is the artist behind Allie Roepe Creative, and I cannot wait to hear more about Allie and her craft. Allie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Welcome to the Best of Raleigh with your host and real estate expert, Gretchen Coley, owner of the Coley Group. This show is all about the people and places that make the Raleigh area so special. Here's your host, Gretchen Coley.
So tell me a little bit about you.
Sure. So, well, first and foremost, I'm a wife and a mom of 3 children. I live in Holly Springs, North Carolina, right outside of Raleigh. And when I'm not photographing children, I love to do needlepoint, I love to read, and I love to thrift and shop vintage.
You are so creative with that. You know, I follow you on Facebook and Instagram, and we're going to tell you how you can find her a little bit later. And I just think that you have a knack for turning something that is old and done with into something that is beautiful. It's a skill set.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so this heirloom photography started with you being a photographer.
Absolutely. So I have been a photographer for as long as I can remember. I actually learned when I was in middle school. My stepmom had a photography business and we had a darkroom in our home. So I learned black and white film, which is actually kind of a dying art in a lot of ways. And I have dreams when my kids get a little bit older to take some more black and white film photography courses, hopefully at NC State. But I was doing that when I was younger. That's kind of how I learned. And then I did it in high school. And I didn't major in photography in college. So I kind of fell out of it for a while. And then I had a coworker of mine actually ask if I would take their family pictures. And I kind of dusted off my camera and picked it up for the first time in a couple of years. And that was back in 2013. And so I've been doing photography really ever since. But that was mostly families. That
You
I
know,
was
it's
doing back then.
so fun because when we sold your home, your portraits of your family were so beautiful, and you shared with me that you were a photographer, but you weren't really doing it very much at that point in time.
Yes.
You were just doing it here or there. And then let's talk about this like black and white photography. Why is that so specialized? Why is that such an art?
Yeah, so, well, all photography started out as black and white, as we know. So when I learned in the darkroom in middle school, all of the photography that I was doing was film, and all of the prints were black and white. So there was really no such thing as, colorized photography when everything was developed in darkrooms. And then once we kind of developed into more color images, people were so excited about color that, black and white was kind of more of the classic or the old-fashioned look. And then we went to digital. Now people have the opportunity to shoot, and edit in black and white and in color however they want. But most photographs today, as you know, are in color. So the classic black and white image has really become such a symbol of tradition, and such an heirloom that people, we look back at old photos of our parents and grandparents and they're in black and white, and there's just something so special about that.
There is a nostalgia to that, right? Like when you were just talking about that, I just smiled. Like my heart just lifted a little bit because I was just thinking through, like remembering as a child going through the old photo albums and the portraits that my family had done. And you are such a family person. You're very into your children, Shelby, Ava Blake, and crew, very much into your husband. And so much of what your passion stems from your family, right? And taking photos of your children.
Definitely. Yes. I mean, I feel like because everyone has, phones that are such great cameras now, I feel like everyone has kind of become a photographer of their own kids in a way. But I think the reason that this type of photography is resonating so much with families is because color photos have just become so commonplace and so easy to capture that these classic portraits are really rare now. And it just feels so much more special and it feels so much more unique.
I agree. So when my son, JT, who's now 20, if that dates me at all, when he was 18 months to 2 years, I can't remember exactly, there was one lady in North Carolina who did these silhouettes, is what we called them. We didn't really call them heirlooms, but they were known as silhouettes. And that's where you have, for those of you who aren't watching this, it's where you have one 11 by 17 that has 5 different shots on it. And it could be an image of just the child's face from the bust up, or it could be a full body. So we went through this process of getting this portrait done for my son. It was excruciating.
I hear that a lot.
It was a horrific process that I don't know that, until I started watching you on Facebook, I was like, I don't know if I would ever want to do that again. But Damien had the pleasure of coming to visit your home in Holly Springs, where you photograph everyone out of. You bring them into your home, which is a whole nother level of intimacy, right? You welcome them into your children's playroom, and he got to watch you. And he said, you are the most efficient person he has ever seen. It takes a special talent to photograph children.
It does. It does. It's funny. I am a mom of 3 young children, and I'm just so used to children, and I love being around them. And my degree is actually in elementary education, even though I never taught in the classroom. So I've just always loved little ones. And I guess I just take for granted, I know that type of photography isn't for everyone, but I guess I just take for granted that I love it, and I'm very, very comfortable with children. And I think children are very comfortable with me. They can sense that I'm a mom. They can sense that they're in my home, and immediately they're put at ease. And all of my clients, whenever I ask them to reflect on their session experience, not one person has ever not said, you made us feel so comfortable. And I think that is what is so important, that these portraits are very classic, and they are even formal, but we don't want the experience to be so formal that the parents or the kids are intimidated.
It's so intimidating. And then just the way that they would try to get him to move his face and don't smile and smile. I mean, imagine telling an 18-month-old boy, okay, don't smile. So walk me through how you get them comfortable.
Yeah, so no, I don't do any formal, direction or anything like that. So the families come through my front door. They're immediately, feeling at ease and feeling at home in my house. It's nice and quiet. I usually have my little kids either at school or, with a babysitter, so there's not a lot of distractions. And then I immediately welcome them up to our playroom, which is upstairs. And every child's face, as soon as they walk in and they see all of the toys, they immediately forget that they're here to do anything other than play. And even the really shyer ones are usually immediately checking out the toys, immediately exploring. I put the mom at ease right away by telling her that the child is completely welcome to touch anything, play with anything. This is a very relaxed experience. They do not need to worry. Because, it's always the mom's impulse to be like, oh, don't touch that or don't mess that up. I'm like, it's completely fine. Please make yourself at home. And then most of the kiddos actually will get on their heirloom outfits at my house because, you're not going to put an 18-month-old in their car seat in their fancy nice.
No, because it's going to get spit up on.
It's going to get spit up on or wrinkled or something else. So I encourage families to relax. They're welcome to get their children, changed and ready at my house. We have a bathroom if they want to fix their hair, stuff like that. A lot of times I even lend out our bows, our hair bows. Because a lot of times the mom says, oh, I didn't have, the perfect big white bow that I wanted. And I say, no problem. I have white bows in 5 different sizes. And so we pull them out. And then I just have a little stool, and it's actually really special. The stools were given, there are these little wooden stools with my 3 children's names on them. They were given to us as baby gifts for all 3 of our kids.
I've seen those.
Yes. They're a classic gift as well. And they're maybe, 6 inches off the floor. And it's a carpeted floor. It's very safe. It's very comfortable. And so I'm able to have even the littlest of ones be really comfortable on the stool. I usually people always ask me like, what is the perfect age, or, how old do I have to wait, especially the first time moms, because they're super excited and wanting to get the orders done. So as long as the baby can hold their head up, I say about 6 months at a minimum, and then usually about a year on up is ideal. So they sit on the stool, and then I honestly just interact with them. I let the, parents or family members interact with them, and I just click away. So I don't, unless it's a much older child, like a 4 or 5-year-old, I don't focus too much on posing them. I really just let them, kind of look at me, look at their family members, look at the camera, and that's how I get the most natural faces.
So, Allie, how did you go from a black and white developing in your family's home to family photography to this heirloom photography?
Yeah. So I did family photography in the area for many, many years, and I really enjoyed it. It was very busy, as you can imagine, because there are so many families here. And I enjoyed it, but when I had my young children, it really was kind of time to take a step back and really think about what I wanted to do, because I couldn't do everything. And COVID was actually a really kind of natural pause where everybody was sort of pulling back and reevaluating their businesses and figuring out what they wanted to do. And it was actually during COVID that there really sprung a whole movement. I don't know if you're familiar with, called the Grand Millennial Movement.
I am.
So really, people of kind of my generation feeling like everything old is new again.
Yes, and it is.
And being really really excited about all the things that our parents and grandparents were super into, and that includes the style of photography. And so as you mentioned, this style of photography has been around for so long, but it had kind of started to fall out of fashion for a while, again, as people were so excited about color and, things like that. And then it kind of slowly started to come back. And right around 2020 and 2021, this grand millennial movement was kind of going full force. And I started to join some groups online and follow some different people on Instagram, and I was introduced to the style all over again.
Wow.
My dad actually had these portraits done, and they have always been framed in our home. And I did not realize that this was something that now photographers were doing digitally. Because of course, back in 1957, when my dad had his pictures done, that was film. So I started to research the style. I started to get some inspiration. And I was just sharing with one of my girlfriends how excited I was about it and how I wanted to do my own children. And she said, well, I think you could totally teach yourself, how to do that style. And I said, really? It just seems so specialized and so different from anything I had done before. And she was really encouraging me. And to this day, I still always tell her how grateful I am that she saw something in me that in the moment I couldn't see in myself.
I love that, because I think we all as women, we need someone to help us with that sometimes. Like I tell my friends all the time, I believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. And I say that to my children as well. And I remember seeing Ava Blake's the first one that you did.
Yes.
And I saw it posted on social, and my jaw dropped. And I said, of course she is. Of course that's what she's doing. Because if you know her, you know that she is all into tradition, nostalgia. Like, you've got some serious traditions around your family life and your, the seasons of life. And I think it's such a beautiful art. Now tell me how you're actually doing it, because you're doing it digitally, but you're not doing all black and white. You're doing some color silhouettes in there too, right?
Yeah. So, my girlfriend kind of gave me all this encouragement. I played around, again, shelter at home. We were, stuck at home for months and months. And so I had a lot of time at home with my children. And so one of the good things that came out of that is I had 3 models, sometimes willing, sometimes not super willing, to pose and to help me kind of hone that style and figure it out. And like Gretchen just said, I posted on Facebook the portraits that I did of my children, and everyone went wild. They went wild. And it was so neat to see how something that really is old was resonating with a new generation in a completely new way, which was really exciting. And one of my favorite parts about this is that not only is my generation excited to have their children sit for these portraits, but their parents and their grandparents, these portraits are touching those generations in a completely different way. And so these are really making such special gifts. And I've had a lot of grandparents actually reach out to me. And some grandparents even gift these sessions for their grandchildren. So it's really special.
It really is an incredible gift. And when I did my sons, I bought one for grandma, one for aunt. And so to think that you could be gifted something like this is a beautiful thing. And we'll talk about how to get in touch with Allie in just a little bit. So I saw recently that Triangle Family Magazine included you in their 2023 gift guide.
Yes.
How cool is that?
Yes.
So you must have a little more time on your hands now to do this.
I was really excited. I'm familiar, of course, with Midtown Magazine and 5 West and Triangle Family, and I always pick up the new issues when they're in the grocery stores and when I see them around. And I was so flattered. Crystal was actually one of the editors from Triangle Family. She reached out to me and said that this year they were really trying to include, local artists, local artisans, local business owners. And she said that she just stumbled upon my work on Instagram and that she thought it was beautiful, and she thought that this would be such a unique service and gift to include for this year. So the issues are on newsstands now. It's their holiday issue, and I believe they're on newsstands through Christmas and past the Christmas season. But you'll see, if you go to a supermarket or go wherever they have the issues kind of sprinkled around town, if you open them up, there's actually a pull-out gift guide, and you'll see one of my black and white portraits of one of my clients right on the first page, which is exciting.
When I opened that up, I almost lost it because during COVID, when you first started this, you were so limited on your bookings. Because I get your newsletter; it's one of the ones that I open up all the time because I find something useful in it. So if you're not on her newsletter list, you definitely need to get on it. You'll really enjoy it. And when so I never really reached out because I felt like you were so busy you couldn't get a spot with her, and she still only opens up a certain number of spots every year, and you're booking now for 2024.
Yes, that's exactly right. So I've always had a limited booking model for a lot of reasons. Obviously, I'm first and foremost a mom. I can only do so much. But I also want these sessions to stay really special, and I don't want to have this incredible volume that I can't keep up with, and then I have to sacrifice service. So I want my clients to have the highest level of service. So I'm very intentional about not overextending myself, only allowing a certain number of families into my home every month. And you're exactly right. The spots do fill up really quickly because I am one of the only ones in the area offering.
The only one in the state at this point. There are some copycats
Yes.
now, but here's the difference. The difference is someone who truly studies an art and decides that they are going to craft it and be the best at it. And I feel like I have a pretty discerning eye, and I've seen your work, and I've seen it in people's houses, and I know when it's yours.
Thank you.
There is a difference. Who you work with matters, especially when you're creating a family heirloom.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So where can everyone find you?
Yeah. So, of course, I'm on Instagram at Allie Roepe Creative. And then there's a lot more information about me, about my sessions, and about my monthly newsletter on my website, which is allieroepe.com. And as Gretchen mentioned, I would definitely recommend signing up for my monthly newsletter. I only send one curated email every month, and I really like to think of it as a lifestyle letter.
It is a lifestyle letter.
Yes. So I do, of course, give updates about my sessions and my availability, but I also include family updates, which a lot of people like. And then I also include a little section called ARC Favorites, where I just round up all of the links and loves from the internet from the past month, things I've purchased, podcasts I'm listening to, books I'm loving, TV shows I've been binging. And so it just kind of helps. I know there's a lot of noise on social media now, and everybody is recommending 100 different things. And this just feels really quiet and curated and calm and delightful for you.
And her color's blue, and that is the essence of calm. So, Allie, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful craft with us. And thank you to all of you for listening to today's Best of Raleigh with Allie Roepe Creative and Allie Roepe herself. We think Raleigh and Holly Springs, which we both live in, is a pretty special place. And this show is all about sharing the people, places, and the businesses that make Raleigh so special. And every guest that comes on this show is someone that I know and trust to do business with. And the experience that they provide is a lot of that. We spent a lot of time talking with Allie, and I would love to hear what you loved and what you learned from today's session, and then what you love most about living in Raleigh. So just head over to the comment section and get the conversation started. And if you like what you've heard here today, follow us and stay in the know with weekly episodes on Apple Podcast and Spotify and YouTube. Thank you again for joining us in today's episode of The Best of Raleigh with Allie Roepe of Allie Roepe Creative, and we will see you in Raleigh.